Part B. Directions. In Part B, you will hear longer conversations. After each conversation, you will be asked some questions. The conversations and questions will be spoken just one time. They will not be written out for you, so you will have to listen carefully, in order to understand and remember what the speaker says. When you hear a question, read the 4 possible answers in your test book, and decide which one would be the best answer to the question you have heard. Then, on your answer sheet, find the number of the problem and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer you have chosen. Questions 31 to 35. Listen to the short talk given by a man.
What a maize is to us, botanist, and maize to most of the world, is corn in North America. Corn, the most widely used native grain of the Western Hemisphere, originated nearly 6,000 years ago when the Indians of Mexico began selectively breeding a wild grass called teos inte. The early ears ranged in size from a ½ inch to 2 inches long. Columbus returned to Spain with seeds of Indian corn in 1493, and corn quickly spread around the world, following the trade routes of the early Portuguese navigators. With few exceptions, it seemed to adapt to whatever climate it was introduced to. About 90% of domestic corn is fed to livestock. The rest is used for human consumption and in the production of paper, textiles, paints, explosives, and plastics. By producing nearly 50% of the world production of corn, the United States is the largest corn producer, followed by China.
Number 31. Who is the audience for this talk? Number 32. How do people in North America call maize? Number 33. When did Columbus return to Spain with seeds of corn? Number 34. How did corn spread around world? Number 35. Who is the largest corn producer in the world? Questions 36 to 40. Listen to a conversation between a man and a woman.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Dashner and I want to thank you for inviting me to talk about the Dinosaur Museum. I am here to tell you a bit about what you can do with your students there, so you can have a memorable trip. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me anytime, okay? Good. Now, let me give you some basic information first. In regard to opening hours, we are open every day of the week from 9:00 am to 8:00 pm except on Mondays when we close at 1:30 pm. And, in fact, the only day in the year when we're closed is on the 25th of December. You can book a guided tour for your school group anytime that we're open. If you bring a school group to the museum, when you arrive we ask you to remain with your group in the car park. One of more of the tour guides will welcome you there and brief you about what the tour will be about.
Excuse me. I have a question.
Yes, sir?
Why should we meet your tour guide in the car park? Can't we wait in the lobby?
Well, we ask you to wait and have the briefing in the car park, because our entrance is quite small and we really haven't got much room for briefing groups in the exhibition area. Do you have any other question, sir?
No, thank you. Please go on.
Great, thank you. Let's continue to the time allocation. For the visit, it is recommended that you plan a minimum time of 90 minutes for the visit. This allows 15 minutes to get on and off the bus, 45 minutes for the guided tour and 30 minutes for after-tour activities.
What if we want to have lunch at the museum?
Well, if you are going to have lunch at the museum, you will, of course, have to allow more time.
Do you have restaurants or cafes there?
Yes, there are 2 cafes in the museum, with seating for 80 people. But, if you want to eat there, you'll need to reserve some seating, as they can get quite crowded at lunchtime. Then outside the museum at the back there are tables, and students can bring their own lunch and eat it there in the open air.
Number 36. What is the woman's name? Number 37. What time does the museum close on Mondays? Number 38. Where will the tour guides give a tour briefing to the group? Number 39. How long is the recommended duration for the tour? Number 40. What should the teachers do if the group wants to have lunch at the cafes? Part C. Directions. In Part C, you will hear several talks. After each talk, you will be asked some questions. The talks and questions will be spoken just one time. They will not be written out for you, so you will have to listen carefully, in order to understand and remember what the speaker says. When you hear a question, read the 4 possible answers in your test book, and decide which one would be the best answer to the question you have heard. Then, on your answer sheet, find the number of the problem and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer you have chosen. Question 41 to 45. Listen to the information given by the woman.
Okay, so, we've been looking at the attitudes of various social and cultural groups towards the management of their personal finances, how important they feel it is to save money, and what they save their money for. One aspect that we haven't yet considered is gender. So, if we consider gender issues, we're basically asking whether men and women have different attitudes towards saving money, and whether they save money for different things. Back in 1928, the British writer George Bernard Shaw wrote his Intelligent Women's Guide to Socialism and Capitalism that a man is supposed to understand politics, economics, and finances and is therefore unwilling to accept essential instruction. He also said, a woman, having fewer pretensions, is far more willing to learn. Now, though these researches do suggest that there are some quite fundamental differences between men and women in their attitudes to economics. Let's look at what men and women actually save for. Research studies of women in North America have found that women are far more likely to save for their children's education, and they are also more likely to save up in order to buy a house one day. The same studies have found that men, on the other hand, tend to save for a car, which by the way takes a surprisingly large amount of the household budget in North America. But the other main priority for men when saving money is their retirement. When they're earning, they're more likely to put money aside for their old age than women are. Now this is rather disturbing, because in fact the need for women to save for their old age is far greater than for men. Let's consider this for a moment. To start with, it is a fact that throughout the world, women are more likely to live many years longer than men, so they need money to support them during this time. Since women are likely to be the ones left without a partner in old age, they may therefore have to pay for nursing care, because they don't have spouse to look after them. Furthermore, the high divorce rates in North America are creating a poverty cycle for women. It is the divorced women who will most often have to look after the children, and thus they need more money to look after not just themselves but others.
Number 41. What is the main topic of the talk? Number 42. Who wrote Intelligent Women's Guide to Socialism and Capitalism? Number 43. What did the study find regarding women's saving? Number 44. What is the main priority of men saving money? Number 45. What did the woman say about retirement fund? Question 46 to 50. Listen to the information given by the man about handedness.
My topic is handedness, whether in different sports it is better to be left or right-sided or whether a more balanced approach is more successful. I'm left-handed myself and I actually didn't see any relevance to my own life when I happened to start reading an article by a sports psychologist called Peter Matthews. He spent his first part of the article talking about handedness in music instead of sport, which I have to say almost put me off from reading further. But what soon I became struck by was the sheer volume of both observation and investigation he had done in many different sports, and I felt persuaded that what he has to say would be of real interest. I think Matthews' findings will be beneficial, not so much in helping sports people to work on their weaker side, but more that they can help them identify the most suitable strategies to use in a given game. Although most trainers know how important handedness is, at present they are rather reluctant to make use of the insights scientists like Matthews can give, which I think is rather short-sighted because focusing on individual flexibility is only part of the story. Anyway, back to the article. Matthews found a German study which looked at what he called mixed-handedness, that is, the capacity to use both left and right hands equally. It looked at mixed-handedness in 40 musicians on a variety of instruments. Researchers examined a number of variables, e.g. type of instruments played, regularity of practice undertaken and length of time playing instruments, and found the following: keyboard players had high level of mixed-handedness, whereas string players like cellists and violinists strongly favored one hand. Also, those who started younger were more mixed-handed. Matthews also reports studies of handedness in apes. Apes get a large proportion of their food by fishing ants from ant hills. The studies show that apes, like humans, show handedness, though for them right and left-handedness is about equal, whereas about 85% of humans are right-handed. Studies showed that apes consistently using the same hand fished out 30% more ants than those varying between the two.
Number 46. Who is the author of the sports psychology article that the man read? Number 47. What made the speaker continue reading the article? Number 48. What did the speaker say about most sport coaches? Number 49. What did the study say about handedness on cellists? Number 50. According to the studies of handedness in apes, how many % of humans who are left-handed?